Welcome everyone. Today we have a very special video that we are going to make. It is an emergent video. I am here with Nicole Palomba, and we were going to meet today to talk about oracular work within art practice. And as we were talking, we realized that we have something really special that connects us that we would love to share. And we would love to invite you into this conversation because we imagine that there are many of us out there. So welcome back. I'm here with Nicole. Thank you so much for being here, Nicole. I'm so grateful to our guides for bringing us together to have this conversation. I know we both shared that we're a little nervous about talking about this. And also I know that we're both people who really trust in the oracular, in the emergent, in the guidance that we're receiving. And we both have been guided to have this conversation. And so I'm so honored by that and am trusting in that this needs to happen as we are feeling the energy and we're moving with it. So I'm so grateful to have you here and to kind of be opening up this space. And this is so special and so needed, and definitely feeling emotional just talking about this.
Yes, thank you for having me and being my new friends and all the things. Yeah, I will also put a disclaimer out for anyone as I'm a very emotionally available person. So if I get emotional, that's just me. It does sometimes suck other people in it as well. So I apologize to you in advance. You get emotional. But yeah, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. And yes, leaning into the mystery, I think, is how I'm going to articulate what is happening.
Yeah, to let people in a little bit into our process, we had been speaking initially about creating a video about the oracular, and especially as we're both people who work with the oracular in our creative practices in different ways. And that's something that I find really exciting in our connection. And as we were talking, getting ready to make this video, we realized that we had something in common that we would love to talk about and again invite people into this conversation, because we really feel like this is an important conversation to be had in this moment. And I know there are many people I've been having this conversation in private with.
Yes, I think also my sort of oracular channeling artistic self is rising here and offering that, as much as I create character in an oracular way, we also create our next selves in the same way.
Mm,
I think, right? So there's part of me that's, even though the fear, right? And I hope it's honored, and I also hope that it's like, fear is quite like a boily sensation for me, like it's very warm, right? And even though that warmth is coming up, I do think it's really important for healers, right? To, like channelers, creators, to honor that warmth, because I think in an alchemical way, too much heat, it'll just melt us from the inside. And I do think I feel that from the collective a little bit. I
right.
feel like a lot of people are naming it as rage, or a lot of people are naming it as frustration, or they're turning it against themselves, naming it as imposter syndrome, or mislabeling of their identities, or whatever it happens to be. And I think it actually just the honesty around the fact that a lot of us are sharing being split from people we love, actually, because of what's happening is important. So hopefully I said that in a followable way, but
You
but
did,
my emotions
yeah.
are like, woo, yeah. Yeah.
We know we're still actively in a painful space, right? So I think the emotions are very present. And as you said, being split from people that we love is really painful, and it's something that we're both feeling. And just to name it, to bring it into this space, Nicole and I discovered that we both have loved ones that we have had to distance ourselves, or even to the point of um, needing to really create boundaries, strong boundaries, to protect ourselves from people who unfortunately have fallen into what I'm calling, and I know there's many words to call this, like a QAnon algorithm hole or a QAnon algorithm space. As some of you know, especially even here on YouTube, that, the algorithm kind of wants to show you things that are really connected to your interests. And some people start to watch videos that are a little maybe adjacent to the QAnon world. And then slowly they start to get dragged in. And so,
Yeah. I think also for me, it is, and I don't know when you were planning on sharing this, so I'll do it now, but we both drew a card before, and we both pulled a version of the Knight of Cups, which is pretty amazing. We're pretty far apart, both in time and space. So the fact that this came up, and the Knight of Cups is really charming. Is really charming and kind of swarthy, and I don't mean that in a skeezy way. I mean like that it's you would get on the horse with them, right? If they came
right.
to swoop you up, right? You would. And I think the part that breaks my heart the most about people getting, I love the idea of a hole. And to me, it's a slippery hole, right? It's full of water, and it's, I'm a very
Mhm.
embodied, tangible person. That it's, you go down there because there's something enticing at the bottom. And I think that's what makes me, I suppose, the most angry about the whole situation, is that there is an enticement, a weaponization
Right.
of knowledge, of information, and
Of,
cups, right? Of
of
heart space.
emotion, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that I think is wrong for anyone to do, actually. I think it's a little bit of a, if that idea, if that group, if that ideology was a person, right, and you were talking to a counselor or a therapist about it, that would be a gaslighting, toxic relationship.
Yes.
And in me, it rises in a ring, very like heavy contraction place, and yeah, and I think it makes me more sad for my people that I know and love that are falling, rather than angry at them, if that makes any sense. And that's a tough place to live, and I'm sure we're not the only people that are living there right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is sad. I definitely, I was sharing with Nicole earlier that I started therapy this week because I am processing the loss of some connections that are really, really important to me. And I've been sitting with that sadness, the grief of letting go of a connection that is really important in order to protect yourself. And part of it being that, we're sensitive beings, right? And um, I know for myself personally, the loved ones that I've had to disconnect from, every time I spoke with them, were really sharing these ideologies, these beliefs that for me just feel really confused and confusing, and also almost coming from another dimension. And I slowly witnessed this in my loved ones. I witnessed them kind of starting to have ideas that I was a little bit confused by, a little bit concerned about, and saw them over the course of the last few months just really fall deep into a system of belief that is, you know, I don't even have the words to say what it is, but it just
Murky.
it murky, yeah.
It's murky to me. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I just want to throw you a lifeline there.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that because I felt
Yeah.
like lost for a
Yes,
moment of like,
but
well, how
that's
do
it.
I even like
I
how do I
think
bring this into language, you know?
yes, but I think too, I'm starting to feel this, the cups, right? That to me, my favorite cups ally image mythology is the Lady of the Lake. And
Mm,
if you fell into the lake, right? I live in a canal boat on a lake, and there is all sorts of stuff down there that can trap you. And I think, and I grew up in Wyoming, right? And they teach you about avalanches when you're like probably too young to be thinking about dying in an avalanche, but they teach you this anyway. That, when you're in an avalanche, the first thing you should do is throw a handful of snow so you can see how it falls, so you know which way is up. And underwater, there's no way of doing that if you can't see, right? If you're tangled, if you're, you know what I mean? Like, because if there's no light, you can't see bubbles or the surface, right? And that's what it feels like to me. It's like, is that, but on the flip side, I think we're on the lost side sometimes. And I think that's where the impasse is. We were talking a bit earlier about the impasse.
Right.
So it's this feeling of who's on the surface that none of us really know at the minute.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for you naming the Lady of the Lake. She's someone who's been really important in my life, and so I'm really appreciating kind of invoking her energy into this space. And yeah, thinking about the loved ones that we have that have fallen in and who are deep in, and and I guess for all intents and purposes, we feel lost. I feel very lost as to what to do. I feel very
Mhm.
lost as to how to reach out, how to make a connection, how to ask to be seen, because I feel very unseen. I feel like when I've tried to connect with these loved ones, all they see, as you said, is, they see me as someone who is on the wrong side, someone who is listening to the quote unquote liberal rhetoric, this almost like vitriol and hatred towards my way of thinking and understanding the world. And I think to have someone see you as lost and broken and part of a destructive system, because of, as we've named, manipulation of emotions, manipulation of knowledge, of supposed knowledge, does definitely leave you in a really vulnerable place, and also leaves you in a place where communication feels fraught. It feels almost
Yeah.
impossible. That impasse feels so real.
Yeah. I think I'm just holding so much space for you. And anyone else who sees this and needs it. I think what keeps coming up is that humans are water creatures first, right? The first things we breathe are
Yeah.
fluids.
Yeah.
And so this this distinction of some of us are air creatures and some of us are water creatures, like some of us are in the puddle with the Lady of the Lake and some of us are on the surface. I know I'm bolstered by my practice, and if anything, I'm so humbled and grateful for my practice in this time, because it reminds me every day, because it's a practice, right? Which means there are days when I'm like not happy to be doing it, right?
Right.
We don't always want to go to the gym, whatever your gym is, but I know that it's just a matter of that we don't breathe the same things. That's what it feels like to me now. We don't breathe the same fluids, but a bird would not try to make a fish breathe air, and a fish would not try to make a bird breathe water, right? And to me, I feel like that's the only kind of clunky analogy that I can find that releases this anger, that releases this sadness. That I'm like, we have come to a part in our evolution where some of us, where we're just breathing different substances. And I think that's allowed me to realize that sometimes they won't see me the way I need to be seen, because we're not the same animal anymore. If that makes any sort of sense. But that is kind of what's coming through, is just,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it easier, because then there's this sense of, I can't go back to the nest because I'm now a fish. And what does that mean? How
Right.
do I live here now?
Especially when these connections are, our family of origin, or people that we have picked as chosen family, right? That to have your home, to have that feeling of the nest destabilized is so disorienting. And yeah. And also, you name the anger. I think I definitely also feel that anger because, this isn't something that I feel, as if we're using that analogy, that the birds have chosen on their own, right? This evolution is a manipulated evolution, right? It's
Mhm.
a evolution that feels nefarious, that it feels like there are certain communities that are being attacked with this
Preyed upon,
information,
I
preyed
think.
upon, definitely preyed upon. My The people that I know who have been falling into this. I feel like they kind of fall into two camps, and
Mhm.
would love to hear from you if you have a sense of like kind of who you've been witnessing getting preyed upon. I've noticed, communities that live within rural areas have been preyed upon, and also communities that are part of the healing community, right? That are part of the energy praxis community or part of the wellness community have also been
Yeah.
preyed upon.
And I think yes, yes, and yes. Sorry, I'm hugging myself because I need one. So if you need one, I'm giving you one. Yes, and yes. And also, um, I have found people who believe in a very strong binary faith path, a faith path of yes versus no, like full stop, full stop.
Right.
Have and that's some of those people surprised me, I have to admit. But my response, I suppose, that I get in trouble for is that it is a system, right? If your faith path is part of a system, right, there's spaces to be manipulated in there. And yes, I've know a lot, not a lot, but the energy workers really surprised me, I have to admit. Some people I think, especially because, and we were talking about this earlier, I work with tarot mostly and intuition, but many people use tarot. Like, this is an ancient tool that we can find out the origins of, and a lot of the origins of the tool, if you're believing what you're believing, don't align with how the tool is supposed to be used. And it surprised me a bit that people in positions of leadership, people in positions of healing, who are holding other people's hearts, who are holding other people's traumas, weren't aligned with the history. I think, for lack of a better word.
I'd love to hear if you're open to sharing a little bit about this, because I'm
Yeah.
imagining not everyone knows about this.
So from what I know, and I say this in every reading I ever do, I am but one immigrant boat lady who reads tarot. Okay, I do not pretend to know everything about everything, and I'm not precious about what I don't know. In my experience, okay, tarot, the history of tarot is very, very linked to Kabbalah, which is a Jewish tradition,
Right.
right? And it was once a closed practice, Kabbalah. And if we're looking at the Bible as a historical text, right, which a lot of people on both sides of this argument like to do,
Right.
The Jews lived in Egypt for a long time, right? Which means this tool comes from a belief system, that is ancient, that is older actually than, and I love Tarot Marseille, that's how I learned. It's older than that.
Right.
Right? It's older than us. It's older than a lot of our civilizations, okay, can fathom. And a lot of QAnon conspiracy is repackaged like medieval anti-Semitic rhetoric, right? That was, can you hear that? That's a duck on my roof. If you need animal medicine, that's
Thank
what that
you.
is.
Thank you.
I've got a single mom duck living above my head. So if you all needed that.
Thank you so much.
Family and perseverance, little ducks. But a lot of these theories are repackaged anti-Semitic messaging that goes back in European history, that Hitler used, right? That has touches across the Crusades, right? That this is, and a lot of it is blatant lies.
Yeah.
Because, and if again you roll back, right, nerd Nicole, if you roll back in the history of empire, what kings said went. I heard this story once. I don't know if it's true. I kind of hope it is. That the reason people drink tea with their pinkies out is because there's a story that King James had gout and he couldn't bend his finger. So he made everyone do this, right? And whether that's true or not, that's a perfect example
Right.
of what I say is the thing, period. Because there was a time, right, when that's what it was. When everybody believed in one specific culture, right? Everybody believed that this was the word of God, of the God. So I got a little bit off on a history tangent, right? But the point is that, you know, I I realize it's a tall horse for me to be standing on. But I think if you're using tarot, if you're an energy worker of any kind, right? If you're calling in you know, your angels or your Egyptian gods or goddesses, right? And not standing up or being prickly about this rhetoric, it doesn't it again, you said it earlier, it's disjointed. To me, it doesn't fit. To me, there's part of me that's like, how. And again, this is where I get in trouble with other readers. I can't believe I'm saying all of this, is that no matter what you believe, right? Whether we believe incarnated or we're made of stardust or, we're in the Matrix, whatever it happens to be, we woke up today in a human body in 2021, right? My synapses, my muscles, these are organic things that we share in the now. So there's part of me that thinks we have to respond to this conversation, this grief, right? And it's painful. Like, it's so painful. It's heavy in the now with the resourcing we have now. And none of us, especially if we're on YouTube or reading tarot on Instagram, like, none of us are living under rocks, right? I have access to research just like everybody else does. Also, I live in the UK. Like, I know people whose family members remember the war. You know what I mean? Like, it's not actually that far away in our spoken history. And this is where we get back to the oracular, right? This is not something, this isn't a fight we have to divine, actually. I think that's what makes me so prickly as well, is that, like, this is happening now, person to person. This isn't just spiritual now. This is in our bodies, in our families, in our communities,
Right.
which means we
Right.
have to respond to it as a human. Does that make Is that okay to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
People
we
are like,
are.
who is this woman? Who does she think she is?
I would imagine, people in our community, I'm excited to hear what they have to say, especially folks who do work with tarot. And, I, as someone who has been working with tarot and also who has been trying to understand a little bit about these, yeah, as we've named these ideologies, I had
Mm,
no idea myself. And so I think it's great
yeah.
to bring this forward and to let people know that there's a connection between anti-Semitic, rhetoric and hatred and that emotional manipulation that has been used other times against other communities, and that it's happening today, and that we're, as people,
Right.
experiencing the backlashes of that. We're
Yeah.
experiencing the pain, the sadness, the rage of seeing people that we care about, people that we have built some of our core attachments around, start to share these sentiments with us, and the difficulty of wanting to be connected to someone, wanting to maintain that attachment while also knowing that what you're hearing someone say is really painful, is really
Mhm.
difficult to sit with, and also maybe enraging and confusing. And, yeah, as a person, have had a really hard time navigating this. And, the people that this has affected are people that I want to be in relationship with. I want to feel like I can be open with, but I don't. I
Yeah.
don't. In this moment, I don't feel that way. I've had to close off from these people. And it's so
What about
hard.
It is so hard. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the sentence of as people, as people. And I think this is what the manipulation is being on that side of things, is we're all forgetting that we're people now, right? That like as connected to spirit as we are, or God, or whatever ideology you follow. Oh, my ancestors are just like it, this is our, maybe if you believe, only human experience. And I think what's happened with this split is that we're seeing each other as, for the first time, a lot of us, as co-people rather than as like family
Mm,
members or collective colleagues, right? We're seeing each other almost as strangers, which in a way is a blessing. My spiritual side is like, that's good. You can see people now. But
right.
my ego is like, this is really painful, though. This is really hard to see each other as people. But what it's doing is it's allowing us, look at us, to have this conversation as, oh, as people who are like, you're my friend who's going through something similar to me. And that's sad, right? So, and again, the oracular, the story of it, that's where the healing lives. It's the story of it. Because this will eventually just be a story. As painful as this is now, this will eventually just be a story. In the history of wherever these relationships go with our, we might find our way back, right? It's not a
Right.
line, right? And I'm not talking about like, our next life. I'm talking about like in 6 months. We don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen.
And I'm so grateful to Spirit for bringing forward this conversation and for opening up space between us.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to say it's okay, but it's not. And I think that's also something people need to hear, is like, it's not okay. It's not okay. And oh, there is so much power in saying I'm not okay. This is not okay. There's a joke in my family that my first word was no. And that is medicine.
Yes.
No is the no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No
And
is
what people
medicine.
do with your no is none of your business. And that's a really gnarly lesson as well. That I'm still learning that high. But it's, yeah, I just have so much. I just this, and my other hand's in my bag for those of you that can't see me, right? This is where the wound goes, right? It's
Yeah.
coming from behind, it's coming from our past through us. And in that way, it has to move through. But everything that moves through is not gonna be okay.
It's gonna leave an impression, right? It's gonna like
Yes,
move us.
and
And
alchemize you. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I for a long time was never even sure if I was ever gonna share this with people.
Mm.
I've
And
been
you still
holding
don't have to. If you edit it,
I
you
know.
go, no. I will understand.
Yeah. And it also feels important to bring it forward and to bring it into community and to not hide from it, and
No.
to invite others into that conversation, because I know others are also feeling these emotions, that I'm not alone, that we're also as intuitive, as empathic, as
Yes.
people who connect with the collective energy. We're also feeling the collective. And
Yes.
I know from private conversations I've had with many loved ones that I'm not alone. You're not alone, Nicole. There are so many people who are going through this right now, who
Yes.
are just not sure how to communicate, how to really rebuild and restore that trust when it's been broken, and how to repair those
Mhm.
relationships that have been fraught because of these really poisonous ideologies,
Yeah.
really. I had a wonderful friend who, when I first heard about QAnon, he called it a confusion spell. And I've just witnessed so many people fall into that confusion spell to the point where I just don't feel like I know these people anymore, because all they're wanting to talk about is how bad masks are, how bad the vaccination is, and how great the last horrific president of the United States was or is. And it just makes no sense.
You know what, though? I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but the mystery is not our business. Our business is to show up for the job that's being asked of us right now. And that, as a recovering perfectionist, I would say, and definite people pleaser, and the eldest daughter of an eldest daughter, right? There's a lot of stuff I hold. And also, like, let's talk about capitalism for a minute. Okay. We are not being asked to rebuild bridges right now. We are not being asked to convert or save anyone right
Right,
now. We're
right.
being presented, and I'm saying this to myself as well, we're being presented with an opportunity. And by opportunity, I mean like a life-saving opportunity to lay a boundary, to
Yes.
protect ourselves. And in the capitalist sense, that feels wrong. It feels like, how do I can't just do step one. There is no step one. If I don't do all of the things now, everything will fall apart, right? But strangely, strangely, um, you can't save someone who doesn't know they're drowning, right? This is like, I just keep coming back to this water. I can't not. It's just that we've got to we have to wait.
Yeah.
Some of us are not good at that, and we're not used to it.
Yeah. And we have to be here with this, and also build connection. I think that that to me feels really powerful about having this conversation is um we were guided to have this conversation. We were guided to connect around this. And as you're naming, we're not looking to convert. We're looking to really just
Yeah.
share how it is to be in this moment, right? In the Hanged Man, right? Which is another card that came up, which is really, yeah, we are in that space right now of feeling the in between, feeling the potential of the in between, right? And also sitting with the uncertainty, sitting with the
Yes.
difficulty of not knowing where this is headed, not knowing if these relationships will be repaired, if there is a way to lower our boundaries again, and for anyone watching this video, for anyone who can relate, or also maybe is on the side of, wondering why we're so upset or what this is about, I would definitely love to link a couple of articles that have been helpful for me to contextualize what's happening. And also, Nicole, I would invite you, if you have anything you
Yes,
want to share,
I
just
will.
to give people some understanding of what this is. And also to say that, there are actually, I've been reading about this the other day, there are people who are now getting trained to help people come out of these spaces.
That all right, I'm gonna have to take you all down a wormhole for a second. So I have a friend who used to work for she didn't work, she volunteered for a nonprofit at Burning Man, who used to the whole purpose of the nonprofit was, if people were on a bad trip, they would talk you out of it. They
Right,
would talk you out of the journey.
right,
And I think it's going to take people, like you said, connections, but not all of us are trained to do that. And I think that this has also been a strange alchemical time. The only thing that keeps coming to my head is this phrase that within this space there are more spaces, that it kind of feels like this maze of other mazes, and there are going to be some people that can see it from above, but for those of us that are inside, we can only find kindredness in those of us that are also in the same bit of maze that we're in, if
Right.
that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think it's also this big bit, I mean, you and I think we both work with ancestors, of trusting that if we share ancestors with these connected people, right, that we'll be connected this way. And if our human selves, I can't, I have to say, I have to admit to y'all, I can't believe I'm saying this, because this is a journey I've been on for a while. This started in like July for me, when this really reared its head with my family.
Right.
And I am realizing that I like who I am very much. I respect who I am, and I respect the work that I'm doing. And that means when they're ready to meet me again, I will be confident and I'll be ready. And I think there's something medicinal in that as well, that I just want to
Mm,
throw at everybody's feet, right? That it's a hard thing to look at yourself with compassion, because I think the first thing we do when we feel abandoned, which is what this
right.
is we think it was something we need to change, which again is why this ideology is so toxic and so clearly planned,
Yes.
because they're preying on people's unwillingness, oh, to hang on their own.
Right.
So I think it will be a re-meeting. And that will be weird, because one, we've all been locked up. We don't know how to talk to people anyway. And two, it'll be people that thought, right, that we thought we had a connection with.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind as you're sharing this is, a very therapeutic word, differentiation. And
Yes.
for those that don't know what differentiation means, it's the lifelong dance that we're in, where we are standing in our power. We know who we are. We have our own journey, our own sense of self, and we also want connection. We want to be with others. We want to be like others. And these are both healthy pools, and we're always navigating and dancing through those pools. And this is very much one of those moments. And I really appreciate you, Nicole, for sharing what you just shared, because it really does speak to this being a moment of clarity, also of getting more clear with who we are, of standing stronger in our power, and also having that compassion, knowing that we are in process in the midst of us also evolving and growing as people too, right? That we're feeling this abandonment, we're feeling this deep loss in the middle of also growing as creatives, as visionaries,
And people.
and people.
People. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. My favorite thing about this is that it's hard, right? I mean, y'all caught me on a good day, but it's it is hard. I spent probably 20 minutes watching a candle last night, looking at my ancestors going, "What do you want?" I can't hear it. What do you want? Right? And about, I was doing some stuff about Libra season and looking through journal entries about how I was just like, what am I doing? Is this all, am I the crazy one? Right? And it's just, oh, I don't know. But that's why we chose human. That's what I believe. And I think the other big wound around that is I'm so proud of the work I've done about me. I want to share it with people I care about. And that's inner child stuff as well, right? It's, I want to show you what I made this, right?
Right.
Let me show you. And an older Nicole has put down a wall, has gone, no, you can't play over there today. And that, I think a lot of us are in that as well, is, but right, and us now is going, no, not today. It's not okay, but we're still doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, because it really speaks to that need for compassion of, and I'm even feeling a lot more compassion for the folks who have fallen into these predatory spaces, right? Knowing that they're also in their process, they're also in that growing and that unfurling, and that someone is coming in and taking advantage of that, in taking advantage of people in a very vulnerable space. And one thing that I've really has helped me is to really feel that there is so much to be mad about. There are
Yes.
so many people who, this world is a really toxic world. There's so many people who are doing really evil things, and I can definitely understand that level of mistrust, that level of anger that exists towards the mainstream media, towards the government, right? That there is
Yeah.
so much to be mad about. And also, it's so angering that someone saw this as an opportunity
Yes.
to prey on people.
Yes. That has saved me more times than I would like to admit. That, and you nailed it. They're in predatory spaces. And if it was in a different predatory space, you'd want to get them out as soon as possible, right?
Right.
But there's this thing that I'm like, I physically can't. It's like watching I don't know if you ever put a spider in a jar. It's that they live in there now. This is my world now. It's like, no, it's not really. But I can't tell you that. And I've really recently this past year come into kinship. Wow, is the word that just came in with my rage. And it's my responsibility to have that rage. That's not their fault, actually.
Right.
Which I didn't like to hear. I'm a Scorpio, right? Everything is never my fault. But like but it's just this yes, this is correct. This is right. There is so much to be angry about. And if I'm this angry, I see why you must be this angry. I think the hardest part about having to relay all these boundaries is that when stuff comes at me, it feels like emotional shrapnel. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm quite responsible for my emotional artillery, if you will. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that is part of the boundary we're all living as well, is that I don't throw things at you.
Right.
I don't say things to you. I don't
Right.
email you things, right? I don't call you and tell you stories.
Right.
And again, that's inner child stuff, right? The ego going, and little self going, well, they hit me, so I can hit them. And you have to go, no, we're just not going to go over there anymore. You just can't go over to their house anymore. I'm clearly doing a lot of reparenting. So.
And honestly, I want to just share, because we haven't said this, I'm so grateful to all the people out there who are holding space for us,
Yes.
for this healing, because it's so important right now for us to have a space to process this and to talk about it, and to not be afraid to turn towards it. I think that's something that, as a witch, I've really had to learn, is that the darkness is our friend. The darkness
Yes.
is powerful. The darkness is a sacred element. And I think that's also part of this, is that I don't want to be afraid of these ideologies, of these ways of being or knowing that people are embracing or being preyed upon with. I don't want to feel like I can't talk about them. I want to really turn towards them, and to also stand in our power and say, in the same way that I would work with an entity, or a demon that comes into a space, you rebuke that shit. You
Yes.
move it out of the space, because you are a powerful witch. And I
Yes.
think I'm really just feeling that in this moment. I'm, really grateful that we're making this video, and really stating that these ideologies are toxic for our communities. They are
Yes.
harming our communities. And I'm rebuking them. And these boundaries are part of that rebuking.
Yes. And you're not rebuking the person. I think that's another thing, right, with witchcraft, with the practice is, it's a big part of me. I'm a vessel, right? When we're doing and when I'm acting, I call them in. I allow them into my vessel. They do with what they will, right? But I was saying this to a student a couple weeks ago, and then they leave. And then
Right.
I tell them, this is mine. You can stay there. You can stay in the rehearsal space. You can stay on stage. You can stay in the costume. You can stay in the props. You can stay in the journal. You can't come home with me. And that's nothing against, that's against the entity, right? It's not against the vessel. And I think that that is hard, right? When you're seeing someone you love lending their vessel. And that's why for me, it's been such a strange, sad, this, I can't crawl in your vessel. I have to wait until you reclaim it. But
Yeah.
in that way, we're protecting our own space, we're protecting our community, and protecting my power. And it still allows for compassion. It still allows for, I say it on my Instagram all the time, the door is always open. Right? You can come in whenever you're ready. And I can only hope, I'm a life path 9, I'm a hermit, right? I can only hope that my little lantern guides them there.
Right.
And it's so sad, but that's all I got.
Yeah, and if you're watching this video and you're someone who, has fallen into these ideologies, who is maybe feeling a little confused watching this, I just want to just say to you that you are allowed to send these ideologies away. You're allowed to reclaim your vessel. You're allowed to really tune in to your body and tune into what your heart is needing and wanting. And, that's something that we had also shared, is that so many people we know who are on these, very difficult healing journeys that we're on are really tuning into the body, are really tuning into how it feels to be in certain spaces. And I know that anytime I've had to be forced to connect with these ideologies, my body has just felt so uh, the words again, prickly. You've used
Yeah.
that word, and also, yeah, just tense and closed up. And so I want to invite anyone who has been in this space to let you know that it's okay to let go. It's okay to send away, and it's okay to reclaim your vessel.
Yes. If anything, it wants you to.
Yeah.
Your body wants to be reclaimed, right? Depending on what you believe. This body was given to us for a reason.
Right.
And in that, a lot of my work is about listening to it on a muscular, bony level, right? How do you feel? Not I feel sad or happy or angry. How do you feel? I feel prickly. Great, where? Right? I feel tense. Great, where? Upper body, lower body, right? I feel short of breath. Great. What made you, when did you start feeling that way, right? And I would offer that as a tool to anybody watching, right? To navigate these weird waters, these boggy, weird waters, right? Your body will take you to the surface. Your body will take you home for less of a comfy term, right? But knowing where that sits will always drop you into the present. I'm trying to listen to where my body responds to what I'm ingesting, and that includes information, that includes text messages, that includes emails, that includes pictures people send you, right? And if you're watching this and you're realizing, oh, I've fallen into something that makes my body uncomfortable, that's the first sign. And you can follow where your body feels more comfortable to kind of get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if you want to take it to the next level, I highly recommend working with someone who's trained at like supporting you, because can be really powerful. As someone who myself has been trained and also has received some incredible somatic therapy, and has had the gift of being able to really sit with and have someone witness you as you sit with your body and listen and tune in and witness the wisdom, the deep guidance that emerges from the body. Highly recommend that. And I think this is a really powerful time for many of us to go into therapy, especially if you have felt like you've been alienating yourself or have been confused as to why certain people believe things. And that's why I got into therapy. And I know that's
Yeah.
like why you also shared that you've been in therapy, right?
Yes.
It's we've been having this moment of this doesn't feel right. I'm confused. I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling like I don't know how to move in this space. And as we've been sharing, it's because we're in this space, right? We're in this space now, and we're not ready to repair. We're not ready to build bridges. We're just in this space now. And I'm really grateful to create this video as a form of documentation of this space, right? That we're really
Yes.
holding the space, and the space is that openness too of you can kind of crawl into this space if you need to be in that place too.
I think my favorite thing about somatics is you're learning how to move in that moment. And the way that you're supposed to move, the way that you were born to move, right? Somatics really helps you open that up. And there's something about being witnessed moving as your true self that will just crack you open.
Yeah.
And I think as much of it's a healing tool, right? If you're on this side of the conversation when you realize you need healing, I think that's also what is being weaponized, right? Is that people are saying as a community, as a group of people that believe these things, we can move together against this other thing, right? Against this other group of people. And that, again, I'm making space for my anger, right? Is totally anti-human because we are all so different. We are supposed to move not in a capitalist individual way, but you're supposed to move in a personal way, right? And this idea that the way that you are trying to be is not enough. Let me color you in with some scary stuff because I see you're angry and I see you're sad. Here's the answer for all of you. Everybody over there is wrong. Is what's looping people in because it's bypassing the space you're just talking about. It's bypassing the space of you have to learn how to be yourself, which sounds so cheesy, but it's actually survival, right? Like like the duck up there. Every duckling won't survive because some of them will get eaten, or if one of them gets a disease, she will drown them, right? This is like you have to learn to survive on your own with your own little wings. And I think that's part of what's being bypassed with these ideologies. I'm trying not to get too upset, but it's taking away the accountability of having to do your own research, of having to have adult conversations, of having to question what you ingest on an intellectual level, on a spiritual level, on a whatever news, anything, media.
It's giving you something to grab onto that even
Yes.
if it's false, right? Even if
Yeah.
it's manipulation and predatory behavior, it's giving you something to grab onto. And as you're naming, bypassing that
Yeah.
uncertainty, bypassing the discomfort, right? The real discomfort that exists with, you said this earlier. I don't know if what I'm doing is going to lead anywhere. I don't know if what I'm doing
Yeah.
is like, and we all sit in that, right? We all sit in that
Mhm.
with the decisions that we make about our lives, right? And that's also what creates resiliency. That's also what
Yeah.
creates a sense of self, right? Of I, and I'm thinking even back to our practices of magic, right? Our will is power, and our will is
Yeah.
developed through these practices of sitting
Mhm.
with uncertainty, of
Yeah.
casting a spell and not knowing what will be returned and accepting what is returned, right? Like these are practices that take time to develop. And so I feel like this is really important, to name this as yeah, as something that's being used and being worked with, and also something that is deeply needed. And so as it's so interesting. I feel like starting this video, I felt like such a deep sense of loss and such a deep sense of feeling lost too. And now this all feels perfect.
Yes.
It all feels like it is needing to happen because we are in a collective transformation that
We
is
are.
happening, and
Yeah.
a lot of this has to do with both the collective and the individual, right?
You are only capable of doing what your deepest wounding will allow, right? That's biology.
Right.
If I have a broken leg, I'm not going to be able to do as much as I could when I'm healing. But that means, right, with us now, not just you and I, us, but with us, you're still you. If anything, you're more you than I've seen, than I've seen you in an hour. Right? And I'm still me. And I'm more me than I was in July when I really started to have to build this muscle. And us being our real selves, again, this is where the magic comes in, teaches me how I want to influence the collective, shows me my place in the collective with this QAnon shenanigans. Is it feels very much like the Borg, like Star Trek, like you're in the cube and then that's it. Where in reality, it's like, no, we're all on the planet. It's same, but different. And I came to this by healing myself, by sitting in the dark with my broken leg at the base of the tower, watching my life go up in flames and going, okay,
Right.
okay. That's where I am now.
Yeah, and it makes sense that we're having this conversation with this being a Hierophant year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, this is all about who gets to say what culture is, who gets to say what reality is, who gets to say what the sacred is and what connection to the sacred is. And also it's about standing in power and being a leader, right? Being someone who can guide and support others. And
Yes.
yeah, and I feel the Hierophant energy so much in what we've been talking about. And also in, even in placing this on YouTube, it's Hierophant energy because we are bringing it to the collective and we are sharing
Yes.
ourselves with the collective.
When you step into your sovereignty, when you step into your sacred, and not like anyone, right? People who are not confident in their sovereignty or haven't begun to meet themselves in that way yet will get scared, right? And I think that's a lot of one, what is being preyed upon, but two, where this shift is happening. So there's part of me that's like, I don't like saying no, but I'm willing to do so because this is worth protecting. And I think a lot of us are in that break space as well. And I have a friend who calls it a boundary hangover, and it's just perfect, I think, for what's kind of manifesting. Is we needed it, but whoa, it hit that hard. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it felt really empowering when I first did it, and definitely I've been in that hangover
Yeah.
now and it's been moving through me, and I'm just so grateful to be able to have this conversation with you.
I'm grateful. I'm just like, and humbled. I've just been sitting here like this. Talk about some magic, like just surrendering and going. It's lovely. It's just, it's important.
It's so important. Yeah. And, really, we want this to be an invitation again for others who want to share,
Yes.
knowing that we're not alone and knowing that we can build our power together, that we can really work together. And just wanting to invite people into this conversation just so that you and I, Nicole, don't feel alone, right? Because I
Yeah.
think before we shared this with each other today, I've only just been speaking very privately with a couple of folks who have also been having this experience as well. And so moving from the private to the public definitely feels like a
Oh,
risk, right?
that's so one of my favorite acting things, if we ever do a chat about creating, is moving from the private to the public. And it's a huge moment. It's a huge moment for anyone, for a creation, right? You're an artist, right? The second when it goes from the studio to the world, it's this huge, right? It's the back, talk about somatics, it's the back space to the front space. And it's a risk, it's vulnerable, right? Your animal self is like, don't show them your belly and your heart, don't do that. And but there are people here who honor it and who share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that feels like a really good way to end this, Nicole. I'm so glad that we can connect around this, and knowing that There's so much to share, and I am so happy that you're on YouTube now, and I'm
Yeah.
so excited to share you with our community, and definitely want to say that this is not what we first again initially wanted to talk about, but this is what spirit moved through us.
Yeah.
And just want to
You are.
name that, Nicole, you're an amazing, incredible intuitive and a
Oh,
creator and also a teacher. And there's so much that you share so generously on your platforms that I'm so excited to share down in the link below so people can get to know you a little bit more. And again, looking forward to more conversations and to continuing to share our passions that we have, that we share together.
yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I think I just want to echo one, the gratitude, but two, you're witnessing, you've witnessed two quite spiritual people really surrender today, and I'm just really honored that that happened. And I don't know, I guess that's just an invitation that, like, you know, if you need someone to help, like, clearly there's two of us, and that means there's probably more. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You're not alone.